All right, everybody. It is just 1 minute after 5 o'clock Central Time. Thank you for joining us all. I know I sent out an email about running a few minutes behind here, but fortunately, we were able to start right on time. So, for those maybe who are still thinking that we are starting a few minutes late, I won't dive into the practice questions just yet. I'll wait a few minutes to get everybody in and settled and ready to go. So while we're waiting, I'll talk about some of the features here that we offer you guys at Archer Review. And how about you guys share with me where you are tuning in from? So what state are you listening in on? I always like to check in and see. I am from the Midwest, so I am tuning in with you guys here from Iowa tonight. So go ahead and let me know in the chat where you guys are tuning in, and I'll share with you a little bit more about Archer Review. Waiting for a few more people to hop on so we can get started. All right, making sure my volume's on for everybody. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you're able to hear me okay? I'm streaming from Instagram, which is a bit of a new thing for me, and I think I just got the volume turned on. So if I can get some thumbs up from people, that would be perfect. All right. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, guys. All right, now that I know you guys can hear me and people are joining in, I'm going to talk about, again, what we offer here at Archer while we wait for more people. So what you're seeing here is a screen with a bunch of QR codes, and these QR codes are going to take you into different directions that will help you be successful, to help you pass your exam. So first and foremost, we have a QR code for you to access our question bank. So right now, you have the opportunity to sign up for our question bank and get access to our on-demand videos through a 24-hour free demo. So you're going to want to scan these QR codes right now, everybody, for 24 hours. So the minute you sign up, that's when your 24 hours starts. You will have access to our question bank, which has over 2,000 questions and explanations about what's correct and why things are incorrect. Essential to help you prepare for your exam. On top of that, though, are our on-demand videos. And these, you guys, go in depth on every content area that we do free webinars on. So just like today, as we do practice questions and some content, if you joined us yesterday for the test prep part of it, you know it's pretty surface level. The on-demand videos dives into so much more detail to help you best prepare for your exam. So these two essential components, go ahead and sign up. You get free 24-hour access to these two. And how about I go ahead and show you what that looks like now? So give me a minute. I'm going to get out of our presentation here. When you go over to archerreview.com and you're going to sign up, all right, so create a login for yourself. I'm already logged in, and once you have a login ready to go, in the upper right-hand corner, it will show who you are, and you'll go to Dashboard. All right, so once you are in Dashboard, here's what it'll take you to. And right away, here's what our Q bank is going to look like. So our question bank is able to keep track of all the questions you're getting right, and it will keep track of the questions that you are also getting incorrect so that you can go back through and work on those questions that you need to improve on. But I'll give you a little feel for how you can create your question bank. So go into create test. You can do a tutorial mode. You can do a timed mode, which is an awesome feature since your exam will be timed. So it's good to start mimicking that environment now. Click next. And then you can start to individualize a test. So let's say you just want to focus on anatomy, for example. So click anatomy, click next, scroll, and then here's the highlighted sections within anatomy. And you can cater to your needs. Like I said, you can individualize your test each and every day, make it something different. So let's say today, after you go through our practice questions, you realize like, hey, muscles, you've got down really, really well. Maybe it is the cardiovascular system and the nervous system that you still kind of has you questioning some things. So you can choose those two areas and then click create test. And then the way we have our test set up is to, again, give you that environment that is so much like your exam that you will be taking. It will be timed, multiple choice, and then you can go through question by question. So that is our Q bank, kind of how to work that. Let's get out of that. Let's also take a look at our on-demand videos. So our on-demand videos can also be individualized. So let's go science. You can choose anatomy, bio, scientific reasoning, chemistry. Let's go anatomy since that's what our content is tonight. And then notice here how our on-demand videos are grouped section by section, but within each content area, so for example, respiratory system, we've got timestamps created. So as a learner who is always seeking to improve their learning, hopefully after tonight, like I said, you recognize what you're good at, what you're not mastering quite yet. And so with our on-demand videos and timestamps, you don't have to listen to this entire respiratory system lecture, all 28 minutes worth, all right? You can hop around to cater your needs. So let's say gas exchange is a area of the respiratory system that you really need to improve. So click into gas exchange and it jumps right to that spot for you. Due to George's COPD. Now, for the sake of security and privacy, you are not able to see the video to this topic right now as I'm streaming with you. But once you sign up for that on-demand and question bank demo, again, free 24 hours as soon as you sign up, you will be able to see that video, of course. And also with our on-demand videos, it's not just the content in the video, but you also get a handout of notes that goes along with the video and a cheat sheet. Cheat sheets basically take the essential learnings from all of this lecture and organizes it into a 1 or 2 page cheat sheet with beautiful visuals. So these are essential components, you guys, to help you be successful in passing your exam. Question bank, on-demand videos. So let me go back to those QR codes. Oh, maybe if I can get rid of all my stuff here. All right, here we go. So there's the QR codes to access those. We also have tutoring that is available as well. So we've got 3 different tutors. We've got Tammy with English and reading, we've got Brandon with math, and we have Shelly in science for right now. So if you need extra support, one-on-one or small groups, go ahead and scan the QR code to always have that available in case you need it. Let's talk about our webinars quick, and then I'll do our 2 packages that we offer. Again, just waiting for more people to hop on and to obviously showcase the awesome things we have going on here at Archer. So our live webinars are almost all free. We are starting to offer some paid webinars, but for the majority right now, they are free. And so just go ahead and make sure that you're checking our calendars. We are having live webinars happen all the time. We've got content-based webinars, which we're calling like test prep, where we just crash course all of the learning. And then we have webinars like right now you're about to engage in, which are practice tests, which is always like a day or a few days after the test prep to see how you're retaining that knowledge and then applying it to some practice questions that are aligned and mimic the questions you will encounter on your exam. So get on our calendar, see what's available, sign up for as many as you can. And then if you ever missed a webinar, you can also access our library of previous webinars. And again, those are still free, so you can go back and rewatch. Okay, and then last here, let's talk about our 2 packages we offer at Archer Review. Our options are Sure Pass and SurePass Pro. And I'm going to click the next slide to show you the breakdown. SurePass allows you to have access to that question bank and our on-demand videos beyond the 24-hour free demo period. So I hope as you guys sign up for the free demo tonight, you realize these are amazing, just essential pieces to help you pass and prepare for your exam. So if you are wanting to buy a subscription to have longer access to those two key things, you would grab the SurePass option. But there's a SurePass Pro option. That includes the question bank and it includes the on-demand videos, but you also get an hour of tutoring included with this package. All right, so you can use that in whatever content area that you need. You get a full hour included with it. And that just saves you a little bit of dollars on the front end because if you do SurePass now and then you realize down the road, hey, I would actually really love access to a tutor. We're still here for you. You can sign up for a tutor, but if you sign up with get that tutor option right away with SurePass Pro, it just saves you a little bit of money in the long end. All right, and then I'll go ahead and give you this last QR code just to have ready to go. This is a QR code for a feedback survey. So after today's webinar, go ahead and fill out this feedback survey for us and me personally, Amber Whitney. We just really like to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our learners. So please take the time to fill this out in the end. And I'm just sharing it now so you have it ready to go. All right. Hold on, I lost my chat quick with my Zoom. I want to get that pulled up here quick and then we'll get started. Okay. All right, everybody, I think we are ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and begin with general knowledge first. So I'm going to do this in the same order that we did our test prep yesterday. So if you were with me yesterday, thank you. Thank you for coming back again tonight. We are going to cover the TEAS portions S.1.1 through S.1.1.6. So half of the anatomy and physiology content, but we're just going to do practice questions tonight over those specific topics of anatomy and physiology. And we will start with general knowledge. So TEAS is going to give you about 60 minutes, 1 hour long, to take a 50-question test, all right? 18 of those 50 questions are focused on anatomy and physiology. So if you do the math and you break it down, that leaves you to have about 1 minute to answer each question. And not just answer, but to read the question too. So I will go ahead and try to remember to pop a timer up here for each question. And I'm going to try to remember my best not to read them out loud. As an educator who teaches high schoolers all day, I'm always reading things out loud. So I apologize if it's out of habit, but I'm going to try to break it tonight. I'm just going to pop the question up. I'll start the timer. You will have 1 minute to read the question, think about your response. And when 1 minute is done, we'll break it down. What's correct, what's incorrect, and why. So if you share your answers with us, just know that if you're sharing them in Zoom, in the Zoom chat, those are going to be private. Only I will be able to see them. If you're sharing your answers on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, those are not private. I'm not sure if that matters to you, but I'm just letting you know ahead of time, all right? All right, here we go, guys. First question, and I'll go ahead and put the timer up. All right, guys, your 1 minute is up. Our question says the sagittal plane separates the body into, and a lot of you got the right answer here. Awesome job, everybody. The correct answer is A. The sagittal plane separates the body into equal left and right halves. All right, sagittal is left and right divisions of the patient's body. So that leaves answer B to be incorrect because the transverse plane separates the body into the upper and lower halves. The frontal plane separates the front and the back. Remember, we talked about the word front and frontal, leaves you with the front half and the back half. And then answer D, which was just equal halves, doesn't tell you which plane it's being divided up into. They're just equal halves, but in what direction, what orientation? So we needed more information for option D. So that made it incorrect. So again, answer A is correct. Sagittal plane leaves the divisions into equal left and right halves. Good job to everybody who chose answer A. All right, let's reset our timer, and here's your next question. Oops, get this out of the way. All right, guys, that was about a minute. And I see here when I minimize my timer that I lose the time itself. So I'll have to play around with those settings for next time. I'm going to go ahead and erase this because it takes over your question. You're not able to see that entirely. So I'll keep track of time on my end, and then you'll just hear my voice when you know that the time is up. So we'll be flexible with it. All right, question 2. Which of the following correctly uses the term lateral? Lateral. Lateral means away from the midline of the body. So that means option C is correct. The eyes are located on the outsides of the nose, right? Like the nose is in the middle, so the nose is medial. So that means that the eyes, which are towards the outer sides or away from the midline, are lateral. So option C is the correct option here. The eyes are located to the sides of the nose, which is in the center of the face. So lateral is that position, which is away from the midline of the body. That helps us understand then why A, B, and D are incorrect. Answer A, the nose is in between the eyes. That means medial, right? And we're trying to understand our understanding of lateral, demonstrate our understanding of lateral. The nose is in between the eyes. That's medial. Option B was incorrect. The mouth is medial and superior to the neck. Again, we're looking for lateral. Answer D was also incorrect. In anatomical positions, the palms are facing forward, so your pinkies are medial to the thumb. All right, let's get ready for our next question, which will be over the respiratory system. And I'll time your 1 minute for you. All right, your 1 minute is up, everybody. Let's break this one down together. What is the correct pathway of air exiting the respiratory system? So, yesterday in our test prep, we learned all of the pathway through inhaling air. So, I'm seeing if you can go in that reverse order. So, the correct answer of the air exiting the respiratory system is option C. So, exhaling air will start, all right? So we're going to start in the alveoli because this was the site for gas exchange. And when you're exhaling, you're actually going to be exhaling carbon dioxide. And that's where the carbon dioxide is going to be offloaded from the capillaries and into the alveoli. Then, as you continue to exhale, that carbon dioxide, that air, is going to leave the alveoli and go into the bronchioles, then moves up through the bronchi, then into the windpipe, your trachea, into the larynx, and then finally into the pharynx before exiting your system. So let's talk about why the other options were incorrect. Option A, this option is the pathway for inhalation. And I see some people chose that, but this is the pathway for inhaling. All right. Still the correct order there, but it's the opposite pathway. Option B, our pathway is definitely disordered here. We've got larynx, then pharynx, but we know that the larynx comes after the pharynx, not before. So the pathway is disordered there. And then option D is also disordered. It's got bronchi, then the larynx, then the pharynx, then the trachea. That one is all misordered. So that one is incorrect as well. Option C was the correct option for exhaling, starting in the alveoli, then the bronchioles, then the bronchi, into the trachea, larynx, and then finally the pharynx. All right, next question. You have 1 minute. Okay, question 4 says, what structure is the site for gas exchange? And I hope after talking about the last question, you know the answer to this one really quick. So the site for gas exchange is going to be option A, the alveoli. Remember, those alveoli are those small clusters. They look like clusters of grapes inside of your lungs. And they're small like this so that they can maximize surface area for gas exchange. That left option B incorrect. The bronchi are larger airways that branch from the trachea into the two separate lungs. So the patient's right and the patient's left. And the job of the bronchi is to conduct air. It does not exchange gases. Same thing with the trachea. The trachea is your windpipe. It simply transports air from the larynx down into the bronchi, those two subdivisions. So option C was also incorrect. Answer D is incorrect. Those bronchioles are small airways that lead to the alveoli. It's that last transportation mechanism before it reaches the site for gas exchange in the alveoli. Option A was the correct answer. All right, question 5, 1 minute begins. Okay, question 5. The body exchanges what gases in the lungs? The correct answer here is C. The choice was oxygen and carbon dioxide for C. These are the two primary gases that are exchanged in the alveoli. Oxygen diffuses in for cellular respiration to occur in all cells of the body. And in return, it gives off carbon dioxide, which diffuses back out of the body. So oxygen and carbon dioxide. Answer A is incorrect. Nitrogen and carbon dioxide was the option there. Nitrogen is the most abundant gas in the atmosphere, but it is not the gas that is exchanged during respiration. That is not the gas exchanged during respiration. Answer B was also incorrect. B was oxygen and nitrogen. We know oxygen is exchanged, but not nitrogen because it's not a part of that respiration process. And then D, the options were hydrogen and oxygen. And again, we know oxygen is exchanged, but not hydrogen. All right, our next set of questions is going to cover the cardiovascular system. Here's your next question, and you have 1 minute. All right, question 6 says the left atrium receives blood from and the correct answer here is D, pulmonary veins. So pulmonary veins bring blood back to the left atrium. They're actually the only set of veins that carries the blood back to the heart. That has oxygenated blood with it. So they return that oxygen-rich blood from the lungs into that left atrium. That's the pulmonary veins that will fulfill that role. Again, the only set of veins in the body that carries oxygenated blood coming from the lungs and back into that left atrium. That leaves option A incorrect. The left ventricle receives blood from the left atrium, not the other way around. Remember, atria are going to be superior, ventricles are going to be inferior. Option B was also incorrect. Superior and inferior vena cava return deoxygenated blood from the body to the right atrium, not the patient's left atrium. And answer C was also incorrect. Answer C was the pulmonary artery, and pulmonary arteries carries deoxygenated blood away from the right ventricle to the lungs. So pulmonary artery carrying deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the lungs, not having anything to do with the left atrium. Question 7, and your 1 minute begins. All right, question 7 says, which of the following is a part of the systemic circulation? And if you chose answer A, you are correct. So good job to those of you sharing your answers in the chat. All I'm seeing is answer A's for the most part. So good job to all of you. When it comes to systemic circulation, this part is going to, remember we talked about the word system in systemic. System is referring to the patient's body. And so we're talking about the circulation that is going to bring oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the heart so it can be pumped to the body. And that circulation takes place on the patient's left side of their heart. So the only option out of the 4 that was a part of the systemic circulation was option A, aortic semilunar valve. This aortic semilunar valve controls the blood flow, okay, from that left ventricle going into the aorta. This is a part of the systemic circulation, so we can deliver that oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. Answer B was incorrect. Answer B was the tricuspid valve. This valve, tricuspid, is on the right side of the heart. And I emphasize the tri to help you remember tri and right, tri right. This valve is on the patient's right side of the heart, and it is between the right atrium and the right ventricle. This is involved in pulmonary circulation, not systemic. And that's the same thing for C and D. They're a part of pulmonary circulation, not systemic. Option C was the right atrium. The right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the body. It comes in through those vena cavas, and it's part of pulmonary circulation, not systemic. Finally, option D was also incorrect. The right ventricle will pump that deoxygenated blood into the pulmonary artery, which leads to the lungs. And that's a part of pulmonary circulation, but we wanted to focus on the part that was within the systemic circulation, and that is the aortic semilunar valve. Next question, and you've got 1 minute. All right, welcome back. Question 8 says, if a person is experiencing backflow of blood from their right ventricle into their right atrium, what structure is not functioning correctly? So hopefully you're thinking through the flow of the blood through the heart. We know atria are superior and ventricles are inferior. So if we're having blood flow from a inferior ventricle back up into a right atrium, what is not doing its job correctly? What structure is that? And if you chose option D, the tricuspid valve, then you are correct. The tricuspid valve is that atrioventricular valve. So when we hear the word atrioventricular, we hear the terms atrium and ventricle in that term. Atrioventricular refers to atrium and ventricle. And the tricuspid valve is that valve in between those two, an atrium and a ventricle. And remember, tricuspid is on the patient's right side. This valve helps to make sure that the blood flows in one direction to keep that blood flowing through the heart correctly. If it's not doing its job, you may have backflow of the blood. That leaves answer A to be incorrect. Oh shoot, did I mess up my, oh no, I didn't. Okay. Yes, okay. The atrioventricular node was incorrect. This node is involved in electrical currents when we want to talk about heart contraction. All right, so this node helps to keep the electrical current flowing properly through the heart. It is not a valve. It does not prevent backflow of blood because it's simply not a valve. Instead, it is a node. Answer B was incorrect. The mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid valve, this is an atrioventricular valve. It's an AV valve indeed, but it's on the patient's left side, which separates the left atrium from the patient's left ventricle, not on the patient's right side. And then finally, answer C was also incorrect. This was the sinoatrial node. Again, another node involved in the electrical conduction of your heart. Helps to regulate your heartbeats, muscle, or the heart muscle contraction, but it does not directly involve or prevent the backflow of blood from one ventricle into an atrium. All right, our next set of questions will be over the digestive system. Question 9 begins. All right, question 9. What is the main function of the small intestine? The main function of your small intestine is to absorb nutrients. So if you chose option B, you are correct. The small intestine is the main site in the digestive system that will absorb nutrients like amino acids, sugars, fatty acids, proteins into the bloodstream. Option A was incorrect, and this was the chemical breakdown of food. So, some digestion does still occur in the small intestine. However, that is not the main function of the small intestine itself. Its primary role is to absorb, not break down. That would be the role of your stomach. Option C is also incorrect. That option was absorb water. And again, although some water is absorbed in the small intestine, that's not its primary function. The majority of water is absorbed in the large intestine. Option D, waste storage. This is incorrect. Waste storage is the function of your large intestine, or, we call it the colon, and it will also occur in the rectum. The rectum will hold that waste until you're ready to release it through the anus, not the role of the small intestine. Question 10 begins. All right, question 10 states what structure connects the mouth to the stomach? So think about that pathway. As soon as you take a bite or a drink and you swallow, as that leaves your mouth, how does it get down to the stomach? And that is through the structure called your esophagus. So answer A is correct. The esophagus is that muscular tube that connects your mouth to the stomach, delivering all of those chewed up bits and your drink via peristalsis. And that's our term for muscle contraction. Answer B was incorrect. Answer B was the small intestine, and that's located after the stomach in the digestive tract. It does not connect the stomach to the mouth. Answer C, trachea, was also incorrect. The trachea, that's a part of the respiratory system, not in the digestive system at all. It connects the larynx to the lungs, not the mouth to the stomach. But the trachea and the esophagus are a tube that run alongside one another. So we talked about that yesterday. Your larynx is like a gatekeeper, and it can send the air into the trachea, or it will help to prevent the food and the drink that you're chewing and swallowing from going down into the trachea, because the esophagus and the trachea do run alongside one another, but they are a part of two different body systems. Answer D, large intestine, was incorrect. The large intestine comes much later in that digestive system. It's responsible, as we said, for absorbing water and some storage of waste. It's not for transporting food from your mouth to the stomach. All right, next up is the nervous system. Question 11 begins. Okay, question 11 says, what structure carries signals to the body and then back to the brain? Is it the command center? Is it the peripheral nervous system, muscle contraction, or the central nervous system? If you chose answer B, you are correct. That is the role of the peripheral nervous system. The PNS includes all nerves outside and surrounding the brain and the spinal cord. Remember, brain and spinal cord are central. The peripheral, these nerves, are everything else that surrounds it. It carries the signals to and from the brain and the spinal cord, which is the central nervous system. This allows for communication to occur between the brain and the rest of the body. This leaves A, the command center, to be incorrect. The command center is just the role of the brain itself, and that's a part of the central nervous system. And it doesn't refer to a specific function, such as carrying signals. Answer C was also incorrect. Answer C was muscle contraction, and that's really a result or action. It's not a structure. It could be a signal that was sent to the body and then back to the brain, of course. So again, it's a result. It's not a structure that actually carries the signal itself. Answer D, the central nervous system, was also incorrect. Remember, central nervous system is composed of the brain and the spinal cord, and this is where information is processed, but it relies on the peripheral nervous system to send and receive those signals to and from the body. Question 12 starts, and your 1 minute begins with it. All right, question 12 says a patient is experiencing delayed reflex responses and reduced nerve signal speed. Imaging reveals degradation along the axons of your peripheral neurons. Based on this finding, which structure is most likely damaged? And what is its primary function? So if you chose the myelin sheath, you are correct. The correct answer is C. We talked yesterday about how the myelin sheath is an insulating layer. It wraps itself around that axon and insulates it. It protects it, ensuring that the speed and the integrity of the signals that that neuron is carrying stays intact. So if your patient is experiencing delayed reflexes or responses, there's something going on with that myelin sheath or with the axon itself because it's degraded, but it's because that myelin sheath was not fully intact to keep that axon preserved. That leaves answer A to be incorrect. The dendrites will receive signals, but they do not insulate or affect the speed of that signal as it's moving along that axon. Answer B was incorrect. The cell body contains the nucleus and the organelles we talked about yesterday, and it's essential for a neuron health, but it does not affect the signal conduction that takes place along that axon. And answer D was also incorrect. The axon terminals are involved in the neurotransmitter release from or to neighboring neurons, but it is not involved in insulating the axon itself. All right, our last set of questions will take place over the muscular system. Go ahead with question 13. All right, question 13 says, what muscle type would be involved in the muscle contractions of the stomach, allowing you to mechanically digest food and drink in its nutrients necessary for life? So is that the role of the cardiac muscle, the skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, or striated muscle? So the muscle type involved in digestion is smooth muscle. So the correct answer here is C. Smooth muscle is mostly found in hollow organs, such as organs like your stomach and others in the digestive system. Answer A is incorrect. Cardiac muscle is only unique to the heart. It is not involved in any other systems, and particularly the digestive system that this question asks about. Answer B was also incorrect. Skeletal muscles connects bone to bone and creates movement for the body. Answer D is also incorrect. The striated muscle includes both cardiac and skeletal muscle, but the digestive organs are not striated and they are made up of smooth muscle. So if you know striated is cardiac and skeletal, then you can rule that option out altogether. Question 14 begins. All right, question 14 says when actin and myosin are overlapped, muscles are, and the correct answer here is D. Muscle contraction, option D, says that or tells us that cross bridges are formed between actin and myosin, increasing that overlap. And that's the foundation for the sliding filament theory, which gives us our muscle movement. So when muscles are contracting, that means actin and myosin are overlapped with each other. That's muscle contraction. Answer A is incorrect. Degradation refers to muscle tissue breaking down due to injury or disease. That's not normal overlapping of actin and myosin, which is essential for overall function. Option B was also incorrect. When a muscle is relaxed, actin and myosin are not overlapped at all. They are separated and in that resting state. And answer C is also incorrect. That overlap between actin and myosin is exactly how muscles do work properly. All right, question 15 starts. All right, your 1 minute is up. These last couple of questions, I like to combine body systems together. Your exam is going to challenge you in regards to how one system will work with another. And that's exactly what this question aims to measure. So during strenuous exercise, a patient's breathing rate and heart rate increase. Which two organ systems are primarily responsible for delivering more oxygen to muscles and removing carbon dioxide? If you chose answer C, you are correct. The respiratory system allows for that gas exchange. So we're delivering the oxygen, we're removing the carbon dioxide from cell respiration. That's the role of the respiratory system. But remember, in order for those gases to get to where they need to go, we have to rely on the cardiovascular system, which is that transportation mechanism. It will supply oxygen to the blood and deliver it to all cells in the body, and it will also remove carbon dioxide and take it back to the lungs for you to exhale. So the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system work in tandem here. Answer A then is incorrect. The nervous system helps to regulate breathing, but it isn't the main transporter of gases. Answer B was also incorrect. Muscles will use the oxygen, but they don't transport it. And answer D was incorrect. Answer D was muscular and endocrine systems, which aren't directly involved in gas exchange or the delivery of those gases. All right, our last question to wrap up our practice test together. You've got 1 minute. All right, question 16. A person suddenly stands up after sitting for a long period of time and briefly feels dizzy. Which two body systems work together to detect this change and to restore proper blood flow to the brain? So if you chose answer A, you are correct. The nervous system will notice that change and it tells your heart to beat faster and your blood vessels will begin to tighten. This helps to keep enough blood flowing to your brain so that you don't faint. So we've got the nervous system working together with the cardiovascular system to bring your dizzy self back to homeostasis. Answer B, skeletal and muscular systems is incorrect. These aid in movement and support, but they do not work to regulate blood pressure. Answer C was incorrect. Digestive and urinary systems are involved in processing nutrients and waste, but not immediate connection to circulatory adjustments. Answer D was also incorrect. Muscular and respiratory systems will support oxygen delivery, but not blood pressure regulation when you're changing positions. That's the role of the cardiovascular system. All right, everybody, those were 16 questions. So we're going to wrap up that practice test portion and let's bring us back to what we have to offer at Archer Review. So remember, you get 24-hour free access to more questions just like these, over 2,000 questions just like these to be exact, in our Q Bank, and in that free demo, you will also have access to our on-demand videos. If you want to sign up for a tutoring session, here's the QR code for that. If you want to sign up for more free live webinars, whether it's in science or math or English or reading, go ahead and check out our calendar, get signed up, have your notifications set up so that you can attend more free live webinars. And just in case you happen to miss some, or you're joining us for the first time and you're like, wow, I had no idea that this was available, we have our older live webinars still available for you to go back through and watch as well. So make sure that you get signed up for our free 24-hour demo, guys. And if you know you're going to need more, the 24 hours to study, don't forget about our Sure Pass and our Sure Pass Pro option. Remember, Sure Pass is going to give you the question bank and our on-demand videos. So access beyond the 24-hour free demo period. And then that Sure Pass Pro option is going to include a free hour of tutoring to go with it. All right, here are our tutors. So if you need support in English and reading, here's Tammy. You can sign up to schedule a time to meet with her. Shelly is doing science and Brandon is doing math. You guys can set up a one-on-one tutoring session, or you can do small groups. You can split the cost with other people by going into a small group tutoring session. And then finally, don't forget about that feedback survey. What did you really enjoy about this practice test this evening? And what is some constructive criticism, things that you would like to see done differently to help you prepare the best that you can, understanding that it is still a free webinar after all. All right, everybody, that concludes our practice test for tonight. I'll hang around for about 1 more minute in case there's someone who has a question in our chats. But I appreciate you so much for joining us tonight. And again, don't forget to keep an eye out weekly for other free webinars going on. And I hope you sign up for that 24-hour free demo to our Q Bank and on-demand videos. Go ahead, check that out. And I hope to see you guys all again shortly at our next webinar. Have a good night, everybody.